Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of Fall Guys University. Today, we're going to be covering the map Skyline Stumble. Skyline Stumble is a Season 4 map, and it times out anywhere from 3 minutes to a minute and 40 seconds, just depending on which mode it is. The first part of this video will be for those who are newer to the game or who are having difficulty qualifying on this map, whereas the second half will be a speedrunner's version with all the tips and tricks. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, comment with what map you want to see next. When I post this video, the timestamps don't always work right away, so if it doesn't show up on the play bar below, then you can find them in the description area. Now let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with a flyover over the map, but there won't be a diagram for this one. Instead, I'll be breaking the map up into 6 sections. No worries though, I'll be breaking down each section in detail. This can be a difficult map for first-time players, as the button section can be pretty complex if you don't understand it, but once you understand it, this map is fairly simple. Section 1 is a low gravity section. This means your character jumps higher because it's low gravity. Low gravity and high gravity were introduced in Season 4. Low gravity pretty much means you can jump higher and float down, whereas high gravity means your bean barely leaves the ground. You can tell the difference between the two by the color of the zone. Blue is for low gravity and red is for high gravity. If you're colorblind, you can tell by the direction of the arrows that move in the zone. Here the arrows are moving upwards, so you know it's a low grav zone. Section 2 is the section between the arches. It's quite simple, but you'll have a flipper to get by, followed by buttons. You don't have to hit the buttons, they're there to shoot out stars that knock off players on the opposite side. And lastly, there's lasers that move up and down. Section 3 is a bridge section. There are a few variations, but here you're simply just trying to get across the bridges. I'll show you an easy way to figure out which variation it is and how to easily get across each one. Section 4 is the button section. This section is crucial to qualifying, but there are 2 key parts. The first is how the buttons affect which force field or door disappears and appears. The second is a big hole in the middle surrounded by a rotating wall, but don't worry, I'll go into detail on this section so you fully understand and can become an expert after the flyover review. Section 5 can be a little bit tricky. Typically it's a slime ramp followed by the laser section. There can be variants, which I'll cover later. Since the laser variant is the most difficult, an original obstacle will cover that in detail. The final section is Section 6. This is a vertical wall that leads to the finish line or going the side routes, which have a treadmill and low grav section. Now let's take a closer look at Section 1. Always start by moving the camera above your character so you can see what's around you. The side you spawn on doesn't matter here. Run into the low grav section where you'll jump down to a lower level. You want to jump as far as you can so you don't have to make extra jumps. You'll land at the end of the first low grav section, followed by a second low grav section. If you happen to fall down at the beginning, it's okay. Just simply jump up to the end of the first low grav section. You can even grab the ledges, however it's slower. The first checkpoint is between the 2 low grav sections. For the second low grav section, you'll make 3 elevated jumps. Be careful of the planets or fruit being shot at you, as these can knock you off or you'll respawn at the first checkpoint. You can take a little time to track the cannons. Each one shoots a fruit or planet approximately every 4 seconds, so let both sides shoot and then jump to the next section. You can also grab these ledges. Pay attention to the top left cannon and my tracker at the bottom right side of the screen. The cannon shoots at 22 seconds and then shoots again at 26 seconds. The second checkpoint is at the end of the second low grav section. Section 2 starts off with a flipper. Simply run to the flipper and stop. If you don't wait for it to fling to the other side, you'll likely get knocked off and respawn at the second checkpoint. This is because the flipper switches sides every 3 seconds, and it takes 3 seconds to run from just before the checkpoint past the flipper. It doesn't matter which way you go. Once you've passed the flipper, you are on a button section. You can simply run around the buttons. If you jump on a button, it'll shoot a star to the other side. It can be tricky to not get hit by stars here. Each button matches a cannon that shoots stars. If someone is on the first or second button, they'll shoot a star towards the end of the opposite side. whereas if they are on button 3 or 4, it'll shoot a star towards the beginning of the opposite side. Here's a little diagram to show you what I was talking about. If that was too confusing, honestly it may be easier to just run and pray. You may get knocked off a few times, but it won't matter if you can get through most of the other sections smoothly. The last part of section 2 is the laser bar. If it's in the up position, just run past it and you're on to the third checkpoint. If the laser is down, you can either wait for it to go up or simply jump over it. A jump dive may be easier for newer players. Section 3 is the bridge section. You can figure out the variant on the flyover before the race starts. There are 2 variants. If you see 5 bridges, it's a multiple bridge pattern. 1 bridge is a single bridge pattern. I'll explain. We'll go over the multi-bridge pattern first. This means there are 5 columns. Columns 1, 3, and 5 will have a bridge that appear for 3 seconds. Then 2 and 4 will appear for 3 seconds while 1, 3, and 5 disappear. Start by jumping on a bridge that just appeared. Count to 2 seconds and then jump to either the right or left. Count 2 seconds again and jump back to the bridge you just jumped from. If you time it right, you shouldn't have to transfer bridges more than 2 or 3 times. If there is only 1 bridge, it will stay with 1 bridge, going from left to right and then right to left. You'll need to figure out which way the bridge is moving so you know where to jump next. But the basic pattern is column 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then back to 4, 3, 2, and 1. Again, you should only need to jump 2 or 3 times on the bridge section. After the bridges is a checkpoint in section 4. Section 4 is the button section, and I'd say it's the section that newer players struggle with the most. But once you know the routes and how the buttons work, it's very simple. First, we'll go over the buttons themselves. The buttons control the force fields that guide your pathway. To make this easier, I'll refer to them as doors. The indicator to which door will open or close is on the floor. If you look on the floor, you will see cables that run to posts. Some cables are lit up, some aren't. Also note that every cable runs to the left side of a door. The cable that is lit up activates that door. Unlit lines equal no door. When you press a button, the lit cables become unlit and the unlit cables become lit. This rule applies even if there are more than 2 cables in a room. The second part of section 4 is a middle rotating wall. This half-circled wall protects a hole in the floor that is the pathway to section 5. This is crucial because if you look ahead and plan your route, you can save a lot of time. Note that this wall may move either direction, however, it will not switch direction during a round, nor will it stop. There are only 3 main routes. You should never go into the back rooms and you should avoid using the side rooms. It's okay if you end up in one of these rooms, just match an unlit cable to the path you want to take. Here are the 3 paths. Make your way to the middle room and then you either go left, middle, or right. Again, this will depend where the half wall is along its rotation. Then simply fall down the slime hill and you've hit the next checkpoint. Section 5 is the laser section. Newer beans have trouble here because they are too close to the center, which doesn't give enough space to navigate correctly. An extremely easy way to get by this area is look on the ground. We are going to use each pizza slice as a marker. If you run where the 2 pizza slices touch, you can stand there and wait to jump over a laser without having to run. Then, once you've jumped over the laser, run to the next pizza slice and wait. This won't work if you're too close to the middle. Once you've mastered this, you can keep running and start to judge it for yourself. You've reached the final checkpoint and the final section. There are 2 routes, up the wall or along the sides. This is a risk-reward decision. For newer players, the side route is your best bet unless there are only a few spots left to qualify, then we're taking the up route. The side route is a treadmill followed by a low graph section which has 3 elevated jumps into another treadmill before the finish line. Start by not jumping up the treadmill but running up it. A common mistake is thinking it's faster to jump up this treadmill. It's not. You'll jump once you get to the low graph section. You can just jump up each elevation or jump and grab the ledge. The up the wall route or flipper route is all about standing on the flipper and letting it hit you upward to the next flipper. or with a well-timed jump, you can make it all the way up the wall in one flip. The risk part is how badly other beams and desync can knock you uncontrollably where you don't want to go. Now that we know the map, let's learn how to speedrun it. In section 1, you want to dive on the first elevated jump, and the other thing is getting a yeet by a fruit or planet that gets shot out of a cannon. However, that is not very reliable. If you have a clean start and a front row spawn, you can squeeze through the flipper right here rather than waiting. Sometimes there will be a yeet under the third column bridge, but it's not very reliable or consistent. Most of the time in the button section, your route will be straightforward or straightforward and then off to the left a little. There are 2 tricks you can do to get by a force field. You can head jump off another beam, or you can jump when the button pops up and it'll launch you high enough to go over the force field and even the middle circle wall. With the current physics, you want to walk down the slime hill, not bunny hop. If you bunny hop, you'll ragdoll. With each update, the physics change a little, so you'll want to keep an eye on this, as bunny hopping down the slope typically would be faster. For the flipper section, you'll want to run up to the flipper and time your jump so that the flipper launches you higher, straight up to the finish line. If you are on the flipper and jump at the same time it goes off, or if you are just above the flipper when it goes off, it will launch you all the way to the finish line. Some players will stand on the flipper and count a few seconds and then jump. I find myself more consistently getting this technique if I stand next to the flipper and count to 2 and then jump on it. You also want to press jump if your feet touch the flipper. If your timing is right, you'll go straight to the finish line. Let's review the basics. Move your camera above your beam before the start to see your surroundings. In section 1, watch out for the cannons. They're on a 4-second timer. Section 2, watch out for the stars or pray and run. For section 3, you need to figure out if it's the multi-bridge or the single bridge variant. After the bridges, immediately focus on the circular wall. Which way is it spinning and where's the opening? For the laser section, stay away from the middle and look on the floor. Your target is the lines of the pizza slices. For the final section, go the side route. Unless you're down to less than 10 places left to qualify, then you'll be going up the wall. There are quite a few variants for this map, so I'll show them after this, but it won't be in detail. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. If you learned something, hit that like button. Lastly, comment with what map you want to see next. I'm more likely to review a map quicker if you'll ask for it. Or comment with what part of this video was most helpful. Now for the advanced review. Dive on the first elevated section in the second low gravity field. It's a little bit faster. Section 4, if you don't have a clear path at the button section, you can jump off a button that is raising back up, or you can head jump off another beam over the force field walls. Practice your timing on the flipper section. Once the flipper is fully flat, count to 2 and then jump on it. With the correct timing, you'll go straight to the finish line. Again, right after this, I will discuss some of the variants, but I won't go into detail. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what map you want to see next. In section 1, you can have a fan variant, along with donuts that move across these platforms. In section 2, you could have the fan bonkus variation, which is very easy if you just use the fan. Section 5 can have a spinning circular treadmill, lasers, or a rotating bar, or a combination of these. And lastly, the yeet to the finish line or to the final flipper. This video ended up being significantly longer than I wanted it to be. However, I felt it was crucial to go into detail on most of the sections. If you made it this far, enjoy the speed run and the funny clip at the end.
Yeah, if Frozen went to the top, he's got an insane run.
I think he did. Holy!
Frozen made it there in first rotation.
Bro, I went from the bottom flipper to the top of the finish line.
Dude,